Ladies and gentlemen, Denzel Washington. Safely assume that you are among friends.
I paid for them.
Yes. Now, it should be explained, actually, to people who might go and see the film that poor guy that you're taking revenge on there, you had, in fact, inserted a bomb, an explosive device, where the sun don't shine.
Where the sun don't shine. I wore gloves. I did, actually.
You did?
Yeah.
What would make a man so angry that he would do that to another human being?
Well, this is basically a story. It's sort of a love story, revenge story. It's the character that I play is a man who, when we first meet him, he's in deep depression and struggling with alcoholism, and he's very distraught about his past. And he's asked to bodyguard this young girl who's played by Dakota, a great young actress. And
she's wonderful.
Yeah, she's brilliant, isn't she? She sort of brings him back to life and helps him to learn to love again, and then at that moment she's taken from him, and he becomes the man on fire.
That's right. He exacts awful and terrible revenge.
Yes, he does.
On those who have plotted against him.
That's correct. As well he should.
As well he should. And I was on your side.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, but the issue of kidnapping is a very serious one in the country where, in fact, you shot that, Mexico,
right.
Isn't it?
This was a book that was written about 30-some-odd years ago at a time when Italy was struggling with the Red Brigade and had a lot of problems with kidnapping. Unfortunately, Mexico and South America now are the hotbed for kidnapping, Rio de Janeiro and Mexico City.
Do you talk to any victims of this, people who've been affected by
Yes, yes, we did. In fact, our character, our bad guy, if you will, in our film was sort of based on a real man who was known as the ear cutter, for obvious reasons. And we met a woman who was kidnapped. Her father was a very wealthy man, and she was kidnapped in Mexico City. And they were paying in the attempt to pay the ransom, and something went wrong, and he got upset and sent her mother and father her ears to let them know how serious she was. And I actually got to sit with the mother and the daughter and to hear the mother tell the story and relive it. It was amazing.
I mean, does that sort of thing, how does that help the actor, and what does it do?
Well, I think it reminds you that, you know, what you're doing is serious, and it's not just a movie. And in my case, it was just, it helped me with the character and what the type of revenge that he seeks.
It helps you to imagine what really happened, and that made yes.
Yeah.
What about you raised the question of this girl, and she is wonderful. Mm. I mean, the most marvellous interaction between the two of you. I mean, normally I can't stand kids on movies. It really brings out the worst in me. I sort of look at them, no, I don't sage children. But there's something extraordinary quality this girl's got.
Yeah, well, I slapped her around a few times. She's 10 years old, going on 45.
Isn't she?
Yeah,
exactly.
She's amazing. I mean,
she's extraordinary.
The first scene we did together, there's a scene when she takes me up to the room where I'm going to stay, and she sits up on the bed, and we're doing the scene, and only twice in my career have I found myself sitting and just watching the other actor and not even being in the scene. The first time was with Gene Hackman, and the second time was with her. I was like, this woman's got to be 46 years old. She can't be 10 years old.
But let's have a look. There's a lovely scene between the two of you where you're talking, well, you're establishing a relationship, and you're trying to, she's trying to make you laugh.
Okay.
It's a lovely, tender scene, this. Here we are. That's a lovely scene.
Yeah, and that scene, everything you just saw, we made up.
Did you?
Yeah. The only line was, "You're smiling," and my line was, "No, I'm not." And we had 2 cameras on us, so we could just improvise. And I said, "I'm just going to keep going. You just jump in." And what you see is exactly what she came up with.
It's a lovely scene, a beautiful scene. Now, the other, I mean, you were renowned for researching your roles. But one part of this role, of course, you didn't have to renown, and that's the alcoholic part of it. Because at one point in your life, you were in danger of becoming an alcoholic, weren't you?
Me?
Yeah.
Right now, as we speak.
When you were younger.
When I was younger, well, I guess we all were in danger. We didn't know it, but...
But, I mean, in your case, I mean, you were a young man when you went off the rails.
No, I didn't go that far off the rails. Somebody told you I did.
No, let me say in all the research, in all the articles written about you.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I better read them.
the story is that when your father left home,
Yeah.
when your parents were divorced,
Right.
that in fact that then you started going out drinking, mixing with the wrong mob.
Well, I was mixing with the wrong mob before they, they got divorced. But no, I guess it had more to do, not so much drinking, but just being angry about it and lashing out, getting
Angry
into
about
more
the divorce.
fights. Yeah, getting into fights and stuff like that. Just a young kid, I guess, not understanding what's going on and, just taking it out on whoever's close by.
Well, these sort of gangs that you're involved with, that sort of thing, neighborhood gangs.
Well, I grew up in New York, and I grew up with a pretty rough crowd. Most of my friends from that time are dead or in prison, and for whatever reason, I guess because my mother had good sense to get me out of it, I was exposed to other things and sent away to well, I guess you call them here public schools, right?
Sure.
We call them private schools.
Sure, exactly.
But so she sent me away to school where all the alcoholics and drug addicts really were. Little did she know.
That's in your business.
Yeah, the rich kids had all the drugs and alcohol. No, it's a true story. I told her that later. She was like, "Well, I wanted to get you off the streets." I said, "Ma, I never smoked a cigarette until you sent me away to school."
But what was the ambition at this time? Because it seems to me that when you're reading again about you, this again might be wrong. I mean, there's so much misinformation going around about you, Mr. Washington. That in fact you had no real ambition. Your first ambition was to be a journalist, in fact.
When I started college, I went to college because my mother said, "Go to college, and that's what you do." And I figured, well, I'll be a doctor. And I took a course called chordate morphogenesis. At that time, not only could I not spell it, I couldn't even say it. So that cured me of being a doctor. Then I moved into political science, and I figured I'd be a lawyer. Then I began to study journalism. In fact, completed a major in journalism, and then I moved into theater. So I think I was working my way toward the arts without knowing it. I didn't have any examples. I never grew up.
Was there
with
kind
anybody.
of a moment when you knew you wanted to be an actor? Was it just, were you on stage for the first time or wherever it might be?
Yeah, my first two plays that I did was, I got the lead. In the first play I did, Eugene O'Neill's The Emperor Jones, and the second play I did was Othello. And in college, and I got great response, and agents started calling and all of that. So I'm like, hey, I'll do it. This is for me. This is my call.
But did you find it easy? Do you find it natural to be on stage? To actually, do you enjoy it? Do you feel fulfilled by it?
I enjoy it. I had enough sense, and I had a lot of training in other areas, athletics, to know that your natural ability can only take you so far. So I did a lot of studying after college, and for 6 or 7 years, and I thought, I'd be on Broadway one day and make $600 a week. That would be it. I mean, I never thought about the movies.
Yes, and you were a struggling actor. That's what you were.
Yeah, still am.
How tough was it?
Well, there were times I was ready to give up. I mean, actually, I was a waiter. I wasn't an actor. I was, doing odd jobs and whatever I could. And in 1981, I got a play, and I got another job right after that. Then I went into a television series called St. Elsewhere, and I've been basically working since.
Well, what about the business of being a black actor in Hollywood? I mean, have there been any problems involved? Do you think of yourself as a black actor? Is there a special kind of category that you find yourself in? Or is it other people find you in that category?
Yeah, I think there's a natural tendency to categorize. Oh, she's a teen idol. He's a black actor. She's I think it's human nature to want to categorize. It's definitely tougher, especially in those days. There were less opportunities, but what can I complain about, really? Nothing.
But you had a mentor, didn't you, Sidney Poitier?
Sidney was, he came and saw me in a play back in '81, and he said, "You're good." I said, "Thank you." But he was someone that I was able to call over the years. In fact, one year I was offered an awful film, but for a lot of money. And I was really sick about it, and I just wasn't sure if I should do it. And I called him up, and he told me, he said, the first 3 or 4 films that you do will determine how you're perceived in this industry. So be real careful about what you choose, and if you don't feel good about it, then don't do it. I'm like, well, he's rich. Well, it's easy for him to say. And I didn't do it. And in fact, 6 months later, I was in England. I was in London preparing to do Cry Freedom.
When you do something like Biko, I mean, how at that time in the 80s when apartheid was still on, did you feel a kind of weight of responsibility about what you're doing?
Well, not in a negative way. I mean, I did feel a sense of responsibility and a sense of honor. I mean, I was honored to be able to do it. As Mr. Attenborough met me in New York, and he says, look, I'm really looking for an African to play the part. But if I can't find one, then I'm going to hire you. I was like, okay, clicked my heels and ran out the door. You know, and he hired me later on. And I remember when I was first landing, and it was actually the first time I ever had a passport, first time I ever left the country, first time coming to London, first time going to Africa. And it was all brand new, so I was just nervous about the whole thing. I mean, yes, I felt the responsibility, but I also felt I was qualified.
And when you made that film Glory, which got you your first Academy Award, there again, that again was an important part of black history, wasn't it? This was the black soldiers who fought in the Civil War. Right. I wondered, what kind of research did you do for that? Do you go back to your ancestors, to the slavery, to all that sort of thing you read about?
We were staying in a hotel on the water in Savannah, Georgia, and next to it were these kind of curved. It looked like parking spaces. They used them to put cars in. They looked like little caves. And I walked around and I was looking around, and this old man came up to me and said, do you know what these were used for? And I said, no, parking cars. He says, well, no, in the old days, in slavery days, they'd bring the slaves in from the ship, right, the river was right there, and they would pile them up in these were actually the quarters that they kept them like housed in. And he showed me, we went inside, and you could still see the holes where they used to keep the hooks to chain them to the wall. So I started doing all my preparation in those caves. I would go in there and read my script. I'd go in there and play the part and work on the part, and just, I lived in there. In fact, I actually broke one of the hinges off. Don't tell anybody. I broke one of the hinges off that was from...
Kept it
I still have it.
As a souvenir. Yeah. Is it true also, I mean, I'm now presaging every question to you about, is it true, because it might not be, that a psychic...
I'm a black alcoholic. Civil War.
And that a psychic once predicted you would be an actor.
A woman who was said to have the gift of prophecy. I was flunking out of college, actually. The journalism wasn't working so well. So I was a black alcoholic who was flunking out of college. You too can be a great actor one day. Just drink, flunk out of college.
I like the story. The story gets better.
It gets better. And you'll meet us. This woman
she's an old witch. A woman of
you'll meet an old witch.
tongues.
Just drink a lot. Don't go to school. Young people never go to school and drink, and you'll be as successful as I am one day.
Anyway, so there's this old crone.
This woman really.
I'm just making
just going downhill.
I'm just going downhill. Yeah.
No, this old woman, seriously.
Make it up.
I'll make it up. Doesn't matter now. No, she actually had. I was sitting in my mother's beauty parlor, in her beauty shop, and I was looking in the mirror, and I could see this woman sitting behind me under the dryer, literally. And every time I looked up, she was looking at me, and she said to my mother, she said, give me a pencil. And she says, I have a prophecy, or whatever she said. She said, you are going to preach. She said, you're going to travel the world, and you're going to preach to millions of people. I said, well, am I going to get back into school next semester? Do you see anything there? Jokingly, but this was March 27th, 1975. In September of 1975, I started acting. I went back to school, and not because she said so, I just thought about acting. And I don't know if I'm a preacher, but I have traveled the world, and I have spoke to millions of people, so I guess in some ways she was right.
And not only have you got one film out, she was certainly right, because I mean, look at the catalogue of films you've made. Now you've got two out at present, haven't you? You've got Manchurian Candidate out as well as Men on Fire, which is coming out later.
Yeah, in the States they came out they're kind of far apart, but for whatever reason they're coming out here close together.
And this is not just a remake of it. It's based on the idea of the original, and it's updated, and it's a good film as well. I enjoyed it.
That's what they say.
Then one other thing I have to ask you, just to get
please.
Right, no.
Anything else?
It's just this thing. I mean, and you can't deny this. I mean, you are a very sexy man in the sense. You are constantly.
Oh, you shouldn't.
I know. Not me. It's just the rest. No. It's just that. I mean, you constantly talked about it being a sex symbol. What do you feel when this is said about you, that you are a sex symbol and all that? Women lust after you.
One of my first teachers and mentors, you know, a guy by the name of Bob Stone, God rest his soul. He said, you know, if you're ever intimidated by anyone and when you're moving up in the business, and he also thought I would do well in the business, he said, just think about them sitting on the toilet with their pants down around their ankles. So for all of those that think of me as some sexy, super sex symbol, just imagine me.
That might go good.
And if you still think that that's sexy, then you have a real problem. You have a real problem.
Denzel Washington for the moment. Thank you very much indeed. Denzel Washington.